in-house or we can get help, that is a decision of the utility. It has been our experience that getting help from the private sector, it's an efficient way of moving forward in a shorter period of time. And Jan touched upon this yesterday. For those who were in his presentation, there are a number of ways of moving forward, the utility hand in hand with the private sector, without having the thinking behind that the utilities, they sell assets or the water is given to the private sector. Those are all issues that do not come into this particular solution. It's a cooperation of the private sector with the public sector in order to gain efficiencies and sustain those efficiencies. The assets, the ownership of water stays with the public, is just assistance. Now, and the key features of this is that we define the outputs. We know what we want, and the private sector comes in on the basis of the defined outputs to perform and to get remunerated on the basis of the outcome. And this is a framework which seems to be working in these particular situations of trying to improve the system and achieve 24/7 in a sustainable manner from intermediate water supply. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Charalambos, for this interesting presentation. The second speaker for today will be Mr. Peter Ingedold from DHI Czech Republic. The title of his presentation would be Systemic Approach to Non-Revenue Water and Leakage Management.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. My name is Peter Ingerold, and I work with DHI, and I will be speaking about our approach to non-revenue water and leakage management. Now, this is the brief outline of my presentation today. I will give you a short introduction to this issue. Then I will mention the software and tools that we have. And then I will be talking about several implementations and case studies to illustrate these issues. And then I will come to conclusion. Now, I'd like you to remember this number, 30%, and that's the average reduction in physical losses that we were able to achieve working with our water utilities over the last something like 8 to 10 years. And I will explain how we achieve that. Now, when we speak about physical losses are or sometimes called real losses. That's the water which is lost through leaking pipes, through pipe breaks. And those are the losses on which we focus in our approach. Now, the water supply it's a whole range of different infrastructure and issues and management. So we have water distribution network. There is always a certain SCADA or telemetry system or some sort of monitoring system of some kind. There will be a billing system of some kind. And we need to work with all these different things and technologies that the utility has. These are the steps in our approach. Before we start working with the utility and start helping them to reduce non-revenue water and physical losses, we will help them to conduct a water audit. And water audit, it's a baseline basically which will help to understand how much water is produced, how much water is stored, how much water is delivered, how much water is lost. So once we know these numbers, we will have once the baseline is established, then we can start improving, and then we can start illustrating how much improvements we have done over the time. So the water audit is the first step in our approach. And then very often we will start developing DMA, district meter areas, or monitoring districts. And why do we do that? We do it because when we work with the utility and they never done a leakage management, and we might be dealing with very large system, which is large, complicated, and interconnected. And you have limited financial resources. You also have limited resources, how many people you have, how much equipment you can purchase. So you can't start implementing leakage management on the scale of the whole city. You need to prioritize where to start. And district meter areas will help you to do such prioritization. You will start separating the system into separate zones, which will make it more easy to monitor a minimum night flows. Once you do that, you will understand which districts lose more water than the others, and you will prioritize your work. Then to allow for more easy data post-processing, we have software that we use, and this software helps to analyze measured data and understand the minimum night flows. So we will implement leakage monitor software for the utility, and we will also develop hydraulic model. And why we do it? We do it because hydraulic model will first help in separating the system into DMA zones, and then later on the hydraulic model will help in pressure optimization. You reduce the pressure by 30%, you reduce leakages by 30%. And also you will reduce the potential of pipes to break. And then we will indeed start commencing fieldworks, because you need to start doing physical leak detection, and then you need to start replacing pipes. So then at the end of our approach, we will provide the utility with a long-term pipeline rehabilitation plan. Now the software that we use, I mentioned, it's a piece of software which allows you to connect to SCADA data, or connect to data that to different monitoring systems that you might have. It calculates water audit in automatic manner. It helps to understand minimum night flows. It has a warning or automatic indication of possible leakages. I will show that. It calculates economic level of leakage, and it has some other features as well. So this is the software that we have. What you can see on the map, it's a city which is separated into district meter areas, and in each and every district meter area you can click on that area, and then it will retrieve the minimum night flows and various non-revenue water indicators. So it's a useful tool. As part of our approach, we compute economic level of leakage. And we do it because you need to know what is your target. If, for instance, the current leakages on non-revenue water is 50% or 45%, and you want to reduce it, it's good to know what is the target level. Is it 20%? Is it 15%? What is it? It can be a political decision, for instance, to reduce leakages by 20% over the next 5 years. Or it might be the political decision to reduce non-revenue water to 15%, for instance. But that's one thing. Another thing is, when you take a look at the costs, how much you have, how much does it cost to produce water, how much you can invest into pipeline rehabilitation. If you put all these costs together, you will get certain percentage which is economically feasible, which will be just right for what you have. So we will help the utility to compute and to set this target. Now, as I explained what we do, it's a combination of modeling, of monitoring. You cannot do without monitoring indeed. You need to do physical leakage detection, you need to start, replace pipelines. Now, I will be illustrating, this approach on several examples, and they will be all collected from the Czech Republic for this presentation. In the Czech Republic, almost, most utilities are privatized, and Veolia Water is the main water provider in the Czech Republic. And DHI, we work with Veolia Water, and we provide them with our tools. So we have implemented, or we are assisting Veolia Water in the northern part of the country and also in Prague, which is the capital city of the Czech Republic. Now here is a brief summary of the projects, how the cities we work over the last years. You can see the system characteristics, kilometers of pipelines, how many DMAs we have, how many storage tanks or pipe connections there were. So as you can see, the number of district meter areas is varying, from 11 to 40 to 70, or even to 160. In case of Prague, which is very large and complicated system, which has lots of pressure zones and distribution zones. That's why we have so many DMA areas. And on the right-hand side, you can see the achievements. So, for instance, for the city of Teplice, the non-revenue water was reduced to 30% of physical leakages and 50% in total, including all components of non-revenue water. And that was done within 2 years time period. 45% reduction in 2 years in Ústí nad Labem. 10% in Chomutov, 25% in Most. So it illustrates that this approach, it's a practical approach, and it works very well. Now, a couple of illustrations. This is a flow monitoring, which is essential in understanding the minimum night flows. So in this particular case, we installed ultrasonic flow meter on the pipeline to continuously measure minimum night flows or flows and investigate minimum night flows. So the survey is essential. Here is an example of city of Teplice. You can see the water distribution network on the left-hand side, the pipelines. The line thickness indicates the pipeline diameter, and these are the storage facilities. And on the right-hand side, you can see how the city was split into DMA areas. So each and every polygon on this screen is the DMA monitoring district. And this is a screen capture from the leakage monitor software that we use. And as you can see, each district meter area is color-coded by the amount of water which is lost. So once you do this, you can start to prioritize your field work. Now this is another example of from our software, and this illustrates the ability of the software to detect leakages in the real-time mode. So what you can see on the left-hand side, it's a list of all different DMA areas, and if you have so many, it's really difficult, for you to try to investigate each and every by, in a manual mode. So it's good if the software does it for you in automatic manner. And in this case, if you will be looking at this time series, here is a sudden increase in minimum night flow. And that indicates, it may indicate that there is a leakage on the pipe. So if we get this indication, and if it is confirmed the next day, the program generates a warning to the utility that here is some problem. And in this case, it has taken them about a week to fix it. And after they located the pipe and fixed the pipe, the minimum night flow went back to the original value. So it's an example of, what we do here. Here is another example, and this illustrates very well what the last presentation the speaker explained, that this is a systematic approach. You need to start doing leakage management and you need to keep doing that. It's not something which happens overnight. If you take a look at the green time series, this illustrates the total amount of water losses. So when we started working with the utility, the average water losses were around between 70 to 90 liters per second. And then over the time, after 1 year, we managed to decrease it to 40, 60 liters per second. So this illustrates that we really need to keep doing this. If you will stop the leakage management or the pipeline rehabilitation at this point of time, then the leakages will develop again because there is a natural race of leakages. Every pipe will start deteriorate over time and you will get leakage. So you need to keep doing that. You can also see that there is an increase in January, which is very cold month in Europe. So as we have freezing temperatures, the pipe breaks rate will increase. Now this is an example of implementation for the city of Prague. So here is a 160 DMA monitoring district area, so it's a very large and complicated system, but the whole methodology works the same way. Here is an example of rehabilitation plan. This is what we produce for the utility, and this helps the utility to understand which pipelines they need to replace and when. So each and every pipeline here is color-coded by color, and the color indicates a year when the pipeline needs to be replaced. And again, this is based on, it takes into account this economic level of leakage, how much money they have, how much does it cost to produce water, and all of these economical aspects. So the conclusion here is that in our experience, this approach that we presented works very well. You need to understand that it's a long-term approach, it's a long-term investment. And in our experience, it was always possible to reduce leakages by at least 20–30% from the original value after we started working with the utility. So that's my conclusion, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Engudold, for your presentation. Our third speaker will be Mr. Mohammed Al-Shafi'i from Aqaba Water Company in Jordan. The title of the presentation would be Achieving Clarity in Understanding the Problem of Non-Revenue Water Through Technical and Financial Studies, Key to Organization Capacity and Will for Implementing Customized Non-Revenue Solutions in Aqaba Water.
Technology. So I'm going to start from the end to the beginning. At the end, now, today, we have a promising new beginning. We have DMAs being constructed with partitioning of transmission lines. We are calculating non-revenue water for each part existing DMA from the bottom-up and the top-down perspective. We have people working on leak detection and work that extends to all departments in terms of maintenance, repair, and collaboration. We are thinking about better ways to increase the accuracy of water meters and the accuracy of readings in a real and a way that we believe. At the same time, we understand that non-revenue water levels are not great. But this was not the case in 2010. In 2010, we had just reached 20% of non-revenue water, and we were excellent. We were the best people in Jordan, and we did everything right. So just a brief about Aqaba Water. We have about 140,000 people in the south of Jordan, and mainly the supply is continuous. So why were we excellent in 2010, and why do we now think we need to do more? So we did most of the basic work starting from a public utility in Jordan with very little to start with, and starting dabbling with leak detection. We had a huge replacement of pipes, of tertiary pipes,